Travel back in time with a trip inside the Iowa's News Now vault.
We're selling this by the order of the United States Bankruptcy Court for the Northern District of Iowa.
The size of the crowd gathered to hear the rules of the auction was estimated at 1,200 to 1,300. Half of them were registered bidders. That's good, because the more bidders, the higher the price. It's hoped the auction will raise at least $3 million. Estimates of the bankrupt meat packers' debt range from $25 to $50 million.
Very large auction. It's one of the largest that I've been on in the 12 years I've been in business.
Holly's employer specializes in packing plant auctions. The biggest one they've done is the Raft plant in Waterloo in '85. There were a lot of hard feelings there. Not so here.
We have not had a lot of people coming and being worried about no jobs, and I'm sure that's the case, but they haven't come down here and expressed it like they did in Waterloo.
That's good to hear, given that 1,700 people lost their jobs when this plant closed and filed for bankruptcy a year ago. George O'Jerry's not bitter either. Of course, when he worked here, the plant was called Sinclair Meats.
I started here in 1915 when I was 15 years old.
Gee.
That's 76 years ago. 12.5 cents an hour.
Yeah.
And you work 6 days a week, 60 hours, you know.
3 big ones, 6 little ones. Yeah. All right, here, let's get some hands on that.
When you take a sweeping glance at the crowd gathered around auctioneer O.D. Holly, you see faces of many colors and shapes. If you could spot Faye Salonis buried in the crowd, she stood out. This petite Filipino woman works for Aftec Corporation, which markets food processing equipment in Southeast Asia.
This Cedar Rapid is so much publicized, and I've been attending auctions. That's part of my job.
Many of these bidders are equipment dealers. They buy this used machinery, fix it up, clean it up, and sell it for a considerable profit.
Gustavo Rondon falls in that category. He was excited today about the money he's going to make with the equipment he bought this week.
The economic and in South America, Central America, doing very well right now, and we buy this equipment to bring it back to them, and a good price.
Hector Elizondo owns a meat packing plant in Monterrey, Mexico. He's gearing up to compete in the new markets that will open when the trade agreement with the U.S. goes into effect. He, too, is pleased with the good buys he's found.
Let's say an equipment that is worth $10,000, like one of the Skinners we bought yesterday. We bought it at $2,000,
Elizondo knows exactly what he wants to pay for a given piece of equipment. He wanted this forklift, but he would not pay $500 for it. I talked this morning to a former Farmstead worker who said the auction looked to him like vultures picking at a carcass. But if you think of all these pieces giving new life to plants around the world, you could look at it as more of a giant organ transplant. Maggie Jensen, Channel 2 News, Cedar Rapids. Trucks of all types were lined up at the docks, where processed meat used to cross these portals. Everything from desks to scales were going out today.
I feel I got a good buy. Yeah, real good buy. I wish I'd have got more of them.
Rosberg says he paid $15 a piece for these scales. New ones would be at least 10 times that. And he knows that these are good scales.
I worked here in '57, and I might have used these same scales, exactly the same kind, if not the same ones.
Jim Larson and his brother will spend weeks gathering and hauling these metal pieces, which they will resell to recyclers.
We've got, I believe, 11 people here today. We anticipate within 30 days we should have this pretty much cleaned out as far as what we purchased here this last week.
The auction headquarters was still busy today, adding up the totals from the sale and helping people who'd come to claim their goods. But the big things won't go out until later.
All the smokehouses and the boilers and some of the larger pieces of equipment will not be taken out until the small things are out of the way.
So much for this bolt cutter. There, hey!
This small thing was not in the way of anything. This is the whistle on the roof that announced the shift changes. It's made of solid brass and weighs probably 70 to 80 pounds.
Incoming! Hey, look at that!
Lars Brownlee says he cannot believe his luck at having what he calls a once-in-a-lifetime chance to buy a whistle like this.
I'm in the process of trying to start a small shop working on engines and the like of all things, and that would be a nice corner piece.